Hello, Dubstep people. It's your boy Zetta, back once again with another video on YouTube. I know it has been a while. I have been trying to record this video and more videos for a long time now, but here I am. I finally am ready to record a lot of stuff for you guys. I'm in my new home studio. You can see the background's different. This is just in my room. This is where I sleep. So make yourself comfortable. And let's get to today's videos. Today I'm going to be breaking down the project for New Dawn, which is my latest single. I just released it. It's out now everywhere. You can stream it using the links in the bio. And please do, so I can eat. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video. And yeah, leave a comment on things that I can improve on. If you want to see more videos like this, if you have any suggestions. And make sure to subscribe so you get more content like this. Let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing I started here was the piano. I usually start my tunes by the melodies themselves. Most of the times I'm practicing piano and then I end up playing something cool. So I record the MIDI and then I save it so that I can use later. A lot of my tunes started this way, like Wanted, Eden, Digital Dreams. Actually, most of my tunes started like this, so this one did as well. So the piano here is just a very basic modal interchange type chords. You can see I'm in one minor chord, then I go to a major chord. So I usually start with one element. Like I said, I start with the piano and then I kind of separate it into more elements. And all of the other elements here are just a variation of the same chord here to fit like each element pretty much. So start with the piano, I have some choir, string session, some more strings but in like staccato, and a brass session, as well as my low end, which is a serum bass. Once I had the piano, what helped me compose this was I had this sort of story in mind, like that helped me compose and pick the other elements about these people in a dystopic post-apocalyptic future where they're like the last ones to have hope and fight for their lives. And that's where the name came from, New Dawn, as in a new beginning. And with that in mind, I made it so that the elements here, using filtering and the dynamics of their plugins themselves, I used it so that the elements are building tension quite a bit here. So they're slowly building tension towards the main point of the track, which I'll get to in a second. So let's take a listen and I'll show you what's going on. Right, so what's going on here? You can see, like I said, piano is the very basic melody and then everything is just based off of that. So I have choir here that are just more atmospheric elements. Very quiet. It's frozen because if I unfreeze this, my computer's gonna die. But yeah, you can see slowly opening the filter like it's a low pass filter, as well as a gain on the volume here is just getting louder pretty much. What's happening in the other elements, such as like the string sessions and the brass sections, they're kind of layers to each other, because that's usually what you have in your orchestra. You always have brass, you always have strings. So I layer them in a way that they complete each other, but they both have the dynamics things. If I open the brass MIDI here, you can see that I have the expression control here, and it's doing something in a way that sounds natural, like the real human playing. Well, humans, because there's no way someone would play this big chord in like brass sections, but it's all of that is like layered with the strings so that it all builds tension. So I'm gonna play from here because it's a massive long intro. I don't want to keep repeating it, but hear how it sounds. that growl at the end is really nice. I love this library. These are Contact, by the way, and both are Session Strings Pro and Horn Strings Pro. Blah, 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 blah. Session Strings Pro and Session Horns Pro. Both are really good libraries. The Staccato is also from a Contact library, the same one as the other strings. And all it's doing is adding some movement to it, because it's a bit too static if it's just like swells of like strings and brasses and like pianos. So this is just adding more movement to it. And it's the same chord again. The frequencies are being cut, like a low pass, and then there's gain control. And it's just a bit of an ARP. So did Ableton just fucking crash on me? You're kidding. You're joking. Ableton just crashed while I'm recording. Nice. Really fucking nice. There it is, and it's back for... Anyways, these were the chords before Ableton crashed, so let me show you what's going on. It's just staccato, just an ARP. It's just the same melody as the other strings, but in this case it's using the arpeggiator to make more movement, add more movement, like I said before. And the very last melodic element here, I would say, the other one is just a high-pitched thing, but this is what's carrying the low end, because I don't have much low end in the other elements. This is just a serum patch that I made. It's a very simple one, just a basic shape with distortion and compression, and also legato. And what it's doing is just carrying the low end frequencies, and this is what it sounds like. I've done something similar in Eden in the transition between the intro and the drop. Actually, just the build up, I would say. And I've just been doing this in every tune ever after because I just love how it sounds. The last element I have here is just this like really high pitch screechy lead. It's like very reverberated, just an atmosphere pretty much. I also have vocals in the background, which are very reverberated. I'm using Valhalla Shimmer here. They're filtered again, just like every other element. They also have the same low pass cut, so that everything kind of builds up tension like every other element. This is just a splice sample that I kind of resampled into fitting the melody, so this is how it sounds. It's pretty cool atmosphere. I love how it fits with everything else. And the effects, I don't have anything on this part. It's just a drone with loads of reverb. That's all I have. The other main point of this intro is the drums, which drive a lot of the energy. Every 16 bars, which is my main metric for this tune. The metric here is pretty much a 16 bar measure, which is what I'm using to define where I'm going to make big changes in the tune. So in this case, you can see that first 16 bars, the drums are just very boring. There's nothing much going on. And then from the second measure here, you can see that there's a lot of movement, which is where the intro starts to get more and more energetic. That is to give more emphasis to that same effect I'm doing with the elements here. So not only the elements are being filtered and being like written in a way that builds up tension, the drums are doing the same as well. But instead of using just filter in this case, I'm using movement to do that and give that effect. So this is how it sounds. It keeps repeating a little bit until that last like 4 bar transition, in which it transitions to the next part where it gets where it slows down again. There you have it. Now, what's going on here in the next section, which is that main, like, most energetic part of the intro? I have this like super big super soul chords, and I'll show you what's going on. I have a few layers here. I have now changed my from the orchestral elements to synthesized elements. So this last 4 bars here of the intro, the very first part of the intro, are important to transition into that, because everything here just filters back to like the low end and then opens up to this like really bright spectrum, which is the super soul chords. So this is how it sounds. So yeah, Everything is just like closing up once again and then opening very quickly so that it brings more contrast and more impact to this like super soul measure here. So what's going on here? I have a very high-end element, which is the top melody. You can imagine these are chords. I like just took the chords and separated them into different elements. They're pretty much the same. You can see the chords here are deactivated, and then I have the top note, and then I have the same chord here, top note, same chord here, but I have one of the middle notes, a bottom note, and then I have the whole chord in one other element. And I'll show you how each of these sounds. So this is the top one. I love the legato. I really love the legato on that. All of the other elements also have that legato, other than the full chords here. But these two, these are just the same kind of layers to this part. Very simple. The other one does the same, but in a different note. It's the middle note now. There you have it. And the bottom note. It's actually the only one that goes down, because I go from like a minor chord to a major chord, so these are just changing, it's just modal interchange pretty much. And these are the layer chords, which is just to give more power to all of these, because they're separated so they're not as full, but this is how it sounds. And then I have my sub, which is just a basic sub. You're gonna need headphones for this one. In between these like big ass like A-bar chords, I have growls that are being introduced. Everything is just transitioning from a very orchestral part to a heavy dubstep part. So I can't just go from orchestral to dubstep out of nowhere. So all I did was I'm slowly introducing new elements. So I started with this very orchestral stuff, and then I transitioned to synths, and then from the synths I'm transitioning to heavy dubstep. So the growls are here for that point. So you can see here I have a rate automation. I made a growl and faceplant that I can't exactly show you because it's frozen. It's a massive patch, but it's just a basic LFO growl. So I have a modulation in the rate. I have a vowel macro, and I have a high pass filter for my reverb washout. These are macros that I set up on faceplant. So this is how it sounds. Then I have other layers for this, including the sub for it, on this part at least. These are the same patch that I duplicated and variated a little bit, so a bit drier than this one. The sub's following the same movement, so it has the rate LFO here. All of them together sound like this. There you have it. Now, for the build-up, what I'm doing here, you can see that I only kept the main chords and that top-end note, and that is so that I can have space for the build-up elements, which are... This is where I started using more risers, as you can see, and I'll break down why I'm using them in this specific way in a second. But I want to show you the percussion I have here. So from this point, all I have is hi-hats, Samplifier hi-hats, really good ones. I have my snares here just building up, as well as the elements here, which is one of the basses from the drop. So this is how the drums sound on their own. It's just pretty standard stuff, just speeding up even more. And then the pre-drop. For the elements here, the one that I kept from the ones that I kept from the intro are these ones. And you can see it slowly filters down again into distance, because I don't need it to be playing for the whole build-up. As well as the chords. The chords do the same, they just wash out into reverb. As it progresses, it kind of disappears into the distance. There you have it. As well as my basses here. So I have a sub, which is, there's a modulation on the pitch You can see here, master tune doing 2 octaves, and it's just doing just to add a lot of power to it. So here's how it sounds. There's a lot of distortion on this one, as well as bright noise. So pretty much 100% distortion. Yeah, it's just 100% distortion. A multi-band compressor, it's just OTT, bright white. It's just harmonic sine wave. And that's what you get. Really cool sound that fills the entirety of the low end. And the one that's actually building up with other elements is this like super nice bass patch that I got from the drop. So this is how it sounds. You can hardly tell, but there's a pitch bend automation that's slowly going up for the entire build-up. And same thing happens to this is I'm using reverb washouts, the one that I made myself, to just wash it into the distance. So this is how it sounds. I'm gonna play with the sub as well, and kind of just disappears. I forgot to mention as well, I have another element from the drop, which is a hard saw, pretty much. It's that same patch, but I used a noise vocoder to give it this airy kind of texture to it, and it just layers nicely with the bass I had before. It's really a nice combination there. Now, for the risers, like I said, one thing I like to do in my risers is all of these are resampled from other sample packs. So you can judge me if you want, but I have Virtualite risers here. But this Virtualite riser, I can show you how different it actually sounds. So here's how the original version of this riser sounds like. It's a very small one, and you can see the one that I'm using is a lot bigger. So what I did is I resampled this a couple times. I have it in repitch now, but before this I had it in texture, and I automated the grain, so it gives it this effect. Pretty cool. So I took that same riser I made for this, and I used it here. But now, again, repitch, but since it's smaller, it goes higher in pitch. So this one sounds like this. It's a bit higher in pitch. The other ones are Jiqui's risers. Shout out, my man Jiqui is a legend. And these sound really good on their own. Mostly white noise. These are just fillers for the other risers that I have here, like my own risers. These ones I made for my own songs. I use them in a lot of the tunes. I have a bunch of them, and it's pretty basic, super solid. There's a frequency shifter at the end here so that it goes faster. Keeps going up. Pretty much what's going on here, you can see that I start with like 8 bars and it's just building up energy. From half of the measure here, the 16 bar measure, I have the risers kicking in, like more risers kicking in. And then half of this 8 bar measures, I have even more risers kicking in. So like it starts to build up more and more and more energy. And with all them together, this is what it sounds like. You see how much more energy it gets. So I usually do my risers this way because I feel like it brings more energy to the tune. So let's get to the build-up here. Not build-up, sorry, the pre-drop. The pre-drop is just a combination of more Jiqui samples, which is just an impact from his sample pack. These are from the Jiqui Essentials. Jiqui Essentials Volume 1. These are really good. I have a sub-drop, just to give it more impact, and a few more risers, including a company one that I got from Splice. They're all just like building that tension to release on the drop. Again, I have some vocals, which are the vocals that are samples from Splice as well, that I processed quite heavily using ring mod and some extra processing here, as you can see, with de-essing, reverb, some dimension expanders, OTT, some EQ that should not be this complex. Do not take this as a good EQ. This is just because I really wanted it to fit the whole atmosphere of the pre-drop. And some delays for other parts where it comes in, some saturation, and Camo Crush for compression. So this is how they sound like. Yeah, pretty standard dubstep pre-drop there. I also have an impact from my drums that I had previously. All they do is just that sort of taiko hit, just an impact on it. And that's it. From this is where I start my drop. And the drop is pretty standard. Most of it is just this 2-layer thing I made, which is 2 serum patches that are in an instrument rack, so they're both being triggered by the same MIDI. So I'll play the drop once and I'll explain what's going on here. So
the drop in flames on these fools like I'm fireproof.
Alright, sorry. I'm kind of cringe. Anyways, this is one of my favorite drops I made. I love how simple it is. There's not many sounds going on here, you can see. I'm using the same growls for like call and response. On my Anti-Hero breakdown video, there's a lot more detail on how I write with call and response, but I'm not gonna take this video too deep because I already talked about the intro quite a bit. So here's how that same growl from the intro happens a few times. There's a few variations of it as well. The main phrase here is just this layer that I mentioned before, which is serum, basic shapes. You can see reverb filter, low pass for the vowel, very basic additive synthesis here. I have a low end oscillator and a high one so that they add up together once I distort them. I have vocoder, which is carrying the sound quite a bit here because this is how it sounds without it. It's pretty squashed, it's pretty distorted. There's a lot of white noise that I don't like, but that is intentional so that I can use the vocoder. This is just an input for the vocoder. That way the vocoder has more to work with, and this is what it sounds with it. Pretty epic. I'm using Serum Effects here for stereo control. You're only using the dimension expander here pretty much. There's a bunch of plugins here. These are mostly for mixing. I'll get to this in a second, but I'll show you the crunch layer because since I used vocoder on this main layer here, the crunch layer is just to add that top layer again, like that top texture to the white noise. So this is how it sounds. So it's also using vocoder, so it doesn't get like too much. It's just adding enough of that crunchiness. And together, they sound like this. I love this sound so much. Mixing here is pretty straightforward, just a multi-band compressor. I'm cutting low-end frequencies, so there's no mud. I'm bringing down my mid-high so that they're not harsh. There's distortion, saturation. There's some more EQing, cutting more low ends that might be added from distortion or saturation, as well as bringing a bit of the mids here. There's an envelope folder which is controlling the mix of my reverb here, and this is a bit of a weird technique, but all it's doing is taking the signal from the one shot from the bass, and every time it hits, it cancels out the reverb so that the reverb only fills the empty areas. So you can see here the mix moving. That way I keep the crunchiness of my sound, but when it's not playing, there's the atmosphere of the reverb. Aha, big brain technique right there. Anyways, I have more saturation, I have some dynamic EQs here to fix everything that was wrong in the sound, some final EQs, a fake reverb. This one has an automation here. It only happens a few times, but for the most of the song, this is like off, this is at 0. And a compressor just to finalize things and like get everything glued together. Next sound I have here is this pretty cool sound I made on Faceblend. I love this one because it's more of a filler and more of a rhythmic thing. Just add some rhythm to the drop. So if I play with the drums, more of an accent to the sound. This one again using vocoder as well, some basic stuff. This is a much more simple sound, but you can see it's just basic stuff. Most of the sound design here is based off of vocoders. This is my hard saw that I've been using in a lot of tunes recently because it's a good filler, it's a good accent. This one happens a lot in this tune. Again, I'm using noise in this case. Saturation, OTT as always. Just using grain delay for that weird effect in the background. More high-end. I loved how it's more of a dynamic high-end. It's not just white noise, just plain white noise, because it sounds super boring. But everything else is pretty standard, removing harsh frequencies, cutting low ends, compressing things, as you can see. And yeah, that's the whole of the entire drop, pretty much. The sub here is just following the same things that's going on in the basses. So, and then it follows everything else. So. Overall, it's a very simple idea, but I loved how everything worked, like the chord response of the growls and the basses themselves. The drums are pretty simple again, just hi-hats and a kick and snare. These are my own, the kick and the snare are my own. The hi-hats are from other packs like Simplifier, Getter, Sultan. Those are really good packs. You can find all of them on Splice. Now the background elements are usually like the way I do. Like I have all of the risers just following the same chord response of my drop, so my basses. So just everything follows the same chord response, like the entire tune. It's just a general guide for everything. So you can see in the risers here, when there's the fake out, there's still more risers just building up more energy to be released when the drums hit. And more G3 samples. I used a lot of them in this tune because they're really good. And these are just background atmospheres to fill out that tonal ambience of the background. So it's not just a bunch of dubstep sounds without no context in the background. So here's how it sounds. Very simple thing. This is a sample I made a while ago. I used this in a lot of tunes. I can't exactly say I remember how I made it. This has been years, but I've been using it in most of my tunes because it's such a nice, like, white noisy atmosphere without sounding like just plain white noise. A little key to it as well. There's this serum patch that I made. Just accents for the key. There's loads of reverb on it as well, 400 milliseconds there. And the G3 sample is just a background kind of sustained note. Just keeps going. Happens throughout the entire tune. So that's pretty much it. Everything else is just transitional risers, just like I had before. The same thing. And yep, I can play the drop without the basses so you can hear what's going on. So. Yeah, this is just boneless dubstep. That's it. The entire arrangement just varies a little bit. There's a bit of a variation in the melody, which I'm not gonna show you because I want you to check the tune. The link is in the bio. Not the bio. I keep saying bio. The link is in the description. Check the whole tune. Please listen to it. If I just give it all away here, it's not gonna be as fun to listen to. So I hope this video was useful. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please stream New Dawn and my other tunes on SoundCloud, Spotify, whatever you prefer. It's all there. I hope you guys like this video. I will definitely be making more of these as soon as I can. Leave more suggestions on the comments of what tunes I should break down or what videos I should make. I would love to hear your opinions. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this and I see you next time. Bye!